The Galactic Empire, a colossus of power stretching across countless systems, had long dismissed Earth as insignificant. Its lack of planetary shields, orbital defenses, or interstellar fleets made it appear as nothing more than a primitive outpost. To the Empire's leaders, Earth was a relic of a bygone era, its inhabitants unaware of the galaxy's true scope. This perception shaped their decision, driven by arrogance and centuries of unchallenged domination. In a council chamber aboard the Empire's flagship, the planet was displayed as a glowing sphere of blue and green. High-ranking officials murmured in agreement as the Supreme Commander, a being whose voice carried the weight of 1,000 victories, summarized the situation. Earth is a defenseless world, he proclaimed, his tone dismissive. Its resources are abundant, its people divided and primitive. Their history shows conflict, not unity. This conquest will not require strategy. It is a matter of logistics. Agreement came swiftly, with nods from the gathered officials. For centuries, the Empire had crushed resistance across the galaxy, assimilating or annihilating worlds as they expanded. Earth would be no different. To them, it was an opportunity to secure valuable resources without the costly engagements typical of advanced civilizations. A young officer hesitated, her voice barely audible over the din of approval. "Commander," she said, drawing attention, "there are reports, rumors from the Androlith archives. They warned of Earth, described it as unpredictable, dangerous. Other species have approached this world before, yet none remain to tell their stories." The room fell silent for a moment before the commander dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. "Superstitions from a species we defeated centuries ago," he said, his voice tinged with condescension. "Their failure is not our concern. The Empire does not fear primitives." The officer's objections were silenced by the weight of authority in the room. As the council concluded, the decision was clear. Earth would be annexed. The Empire's fleet, the most advanced in the galaxy, would descend upon the planet. Preparations began immediately, with invasion strategies drafted and logistics finalized. The operation was expected to be swift and decisive, a testament to the Empire's unparalleled might. Yet, as the fleet moved toward Earth, whispers lingered among the younger officers. Warnings from long-extinct species spoke of Earth's inexplicable resilience, tales of strange tactics and unexpected victories. These stories were ignored by the leadership, seen as distractions from their goal. The fleet approached Earth with confidence, blind to the lessons others had learned the hard way. The Empire was prepared for a conquest that would reaffirm its dominance. What they did not realize, however, was that Earth's greatest weapon was not its technology or its resources. It was something far less tangible, something no alien species had yet understood. The fleet arrived in Earth's orbit with precision and purpose, a spectacle of power visible even from the planet's surface. The Empire's ships, massive constructs of metal and light, cast long shadows over cities, their presence a silent declaration of superiority. The Supreme Commander issued the standard broadcast, his voice transmitted across all frequencies. "People of Earth, your planet is now under the dominion of the Galactic Empire. Surrender peacefully, and your survival will be ensured. Resistance will result in annihilation." For hours there was no response. To the Empire, this silence was nothing new. Fear often muted the conquered. Yet as days passed, the silence became unsettling. Earth's inhabitants continued their lives as if the armada hovering above did not exist. Observations revealed people attending to their daily routines, shopping, working, even celebrating, despite the looming threat. The commander's frustration grew. "They don't even acknowledge us," he muttered, interpreting the lack of response as defiance. The order was given. Troops were deployed in waves, targeting major cities. Their descent was unchallenged, their advanced weapons glinting under Earth's sun. Yet as the soldiers marched through the streets, they found no centralized resistance, no armies waiting to meet them. Instead, they encountered empty buildings rigged with traps, infrastructure sabotaged in ways that seemed chaotic but were calculated to stall their progress. Communications between squads became erratic. Reports came in of vehicles malfunctioning without cause, supply lines disappearing in what should have been secure zones, and devices hacked to loop nonsense messages. Soldiers found themselves ambushed by unseen foes, small groups of humans who used the terrain with unnerving precision, turning urban landscapes into labyrinths of confusion. What the Empire had dismissed as primitive tactics quickly became a nightmare. When the invaders attempted to regroup, their command centers were flooded with false intelligence. Maps led troops into dead ends or areas rigged with explosives. Signals were intercepted and distorted, causing entire units to fire upon one another in confusion. Empire engineers scrambled to contain the breaches, but their systems, designed to counter advanced civilizations, struggled against attacks so unconventional they seemed almost random. Alien soldiers, trained for direct confrontations, were unnerved by the psychological toll. Voices echoed through abandoned streets, disembodied and mocking. Human broadcasts played on every device, not pleading for mercy but mocking the invaders' inability to adapt. One particular recording, a looping laugh, became infamous among the ranks, driving many to paranoia. The commander's confidence began to waver. How can they be this disorganized yet so effective? He demanded of his advisors, but no answers came. Even attempts to deploy their most advanced technologies were thwarted. Drones fell from the sky, their systems overridden, and artillery strikes missed their targets, redirected by hacked coordinates. What had seemed like a simple conquest was unraveling into chaos. The Empire's forces, vast and powerful, were being undone not by superior weaponry but by a species that refused to fight by any rules the invaders understood. For the first time, the Galactic Empire began to doubt its victory. As the invasion stretched into weeks, the Empire's forces found themselves embroiled in a war unlike any they had ever faced. Their technology, so advanced it bordered on infallible, had been their pride, but against Earth it was rendered unreliable. Human hackers, often individuals working alone from improvised setups, had infiltrated the Empire's systems, exploiting vulnerabilities the aliens never thought to protect. Communications were disrupted, targeting systems went haywire, and the invaders' own machinery turned against them. The Empire's soldiers, accustomed to precision and control, found themselves at the mercy of chaos. Their drones, once untouchable, were captured mid-air by improvised human countermeasures. Satellites, which should have provided clear data, were commandeered and used to broadcast cryptic human messages. Simple concepts like redundancy, decentralized networks, and adaptability had been mastered by humanity, leaving the invaders struggling to regain control. Even Earth's geography became an ally for its defenders. Dense cities turned into mazes, forests became impenetrable fortresses, and deserts hid traps that dismantled entire armored units. Flooding, earthquakes, and blinding storms seemed to strike precisely where they were least expected. At first, the aliens thought it was coincidence, natural phenomena interfering with their operations. But as patterns emerged, they realized humanity had weaponized the planet itself. In one sector, an alien officer leading a battalion through a seemingly unimportant valley found her forces bogged down by relentless ambushes. Crude but effective traps disabled their vehicles. Nearby rivers overflowed, cutting off retreat routes. She reported her predicament to the fleet, only to have her message intercepted and warped to broadcast her despair to her own soldiers. By the time reinforcements arrived, morale was shattered, and the battalion had disbanded in disarray. But it wasn't just physical warfare. The psychological toll was far worse. Human propaganda saturated the alien ranks, spreading doubt and fear. Stories circulated among soldiers of phantom attackers and unkillable warriors. At night, they swore they heard whispers in their own languages, despite no humans being present. Lights flickered inexplicably, shadows moved where they shouldn't, and the line between reality and illusion blurred. What unnerved the Empire most was humanity's defiance. They didn't fight for territory or resources but for survival itself, and this made them relentless. Captured humans, when interrogated, provided nothing but mockery or silence. Alien interrogators, unused to such obstinance, found themselves shaken. "You'll never understand," One human said with a grim smile. "We don't fight because we hate you. We fight because we can't lose." The Empire's leadership held emergency meetings to reassess their approach. Proposals to escalate force were dismissed. Every attempt to escalate had only brought more resistance. Deploying larger forces simply created larger targets. The Empire had studied wars for centuries, but humanity was rewriting the rules in real time. What frightened the commanders most wasn't Earth's military power, which was still vastly inferior to their own. It was their unpredictability. Humans didn't just adapt to situations, they thrived in them. Their chaotic methods weren't signs of weakness but deliberate strategies that exploited every blind spot the Empire had. For the first time, the invaders began to wonder if they had underestimated not just Earth, but the very nature of its inhabitants. The Empire's forces, once so confident in their superiority, were now in complete disarray. Entire battalions had been lost, not to overwhelming firepower but to a relentless, unpredictable enemy. Supplies dwindled as convoys disappeared without explanation. The fleet above Earth, once a symbol of unmatched power, was plagued by sabotage from within. Systems meant to coordinate strikes turned against them, rendering the fleet's advanced weaponry useless. In one decisive blow, a human team infiltrated the flagship itself. Using a combination of stolen codes, disguised transmissions, and sheer audacity, they bypassed the ship's defenses. When the Empire realized what had happened, it was too late. The humans hadn't destroyed the flagship, they had taken control. A transmission from the ship was broadcast across the Empire's fleet. A simple, taunting message. "This is Earth. We see you." Panic spread among the Empire's ranks. Soldiers mutinied. Ships turned on each other. And commanders who once scoffed at Earth's defenders now scrambled to save themselves. Attempts to regroup were thwarted by human forces exploiting every crack in their strategy. The more the Empire tried to assert control, the more their efforts were unraveled by an enemy that refused to conform to expectations. The Supreme Commander, faced with defeat for the first time in his storied career, ordered a full retreat. The decision was met with outrage from his council, but there was no other choice. Continuing the invasion would mean the total collapse of their forces. The fleet began its withdrawal, battered and humiliated, leaving Earth untouched. Back aboard the flagship, the council convened in silence. The Supreme Commander, his composure shattered, addressed the room. "We underestimated them," he admitted, his voice heavy with defeat. "Earth is not defenseless. It is a trap, a deliberate, calculated trap. They fight in ways we cannot predict, with weapons we cannot counter. Their strength lies not in their technology but in their sheer will to survive." The young officer who had first raised concerns now spoke again, her voice steady. "It's not just survival," she said. "Humans thrive in chaos. What we see as disorganization, they see as opportunity. They are not bound by the rules of war that we have followed for centuries. To fight them is to fight the unknown." The room remained silent as the implications sank in. The Empire's defeat was more than a failure of strategy. It was a revelation. Earth's people, with all their apparent weaknesses, were something no other species in the galaxy could match. The Empire had faced countless enemies, but never one that turned every strength into a weakness, every advantage into a liability. As the fleet retreated to the safety of their own systems, the story of Earth began to spread. It became a whispered warning among the stars. Earth was not a world to conquer. Its people were not prey. They were something else entirely. Something even the mighty Galactic Empire dared not provoke again. The lesson was clear. Earth was a place where invaders came to die.